There's a story going around, and I'm struggling with it, except for the fact that the source is so damn good. And the story is that it was the UFC mastermind that moved Ilia up and moved Islam up. That's the story, that it was the UFC is the one that had this idea, but didn't want to get those guys together. Wanted those guys faces of divisions. And I struggle with that so immensely. If I found out that were true, I would not have a problem with it. I just struggle with it. That would be so off of what anything that the UFC's ever done, for one. But secondly, I wouldn't understand it. It's the same spot that we were in. We're taking a much bigger risk to try to get back to the spot that we're already in. Ilia is already the face of a division. Islam is already the face of a division. They're not fighting one another. I struggle with the concept that Ilia should be the face of this division and Islam should be the face of this division, and I'm just not sure where anything changed. But the source pushing this story is so damn reliable that I can't completely look away from it, and it does make me wonder a couple of things. What happens if they lose? If Ilia Topuria is to lose at 155 pounds, does he go back to 145? If this wasn't his idea in the first place, if it wasn't something that he wanted to do, would he return to a division where he was king, where he's got an absolute confidence that he can be the king because he already was? And I don't think so. It's one of the reasons I'm having had such a hard time with this claim. Ilia didn't leave 145 because somebody asked him to. Ilia was done at 145. Not with the division. Not with the Brian Ortegas and the Uriah Rodriguez's of the world. Not even close. He was done beating the scale. And that wasn't just my opinion. I'm the first one that brought that to you, but Ilia finally said that I was right. He just confirmed this over the weekend. He said, yeah, fighting at 145 was like living in the desert. You know, you're hurting, you're starving, there's nothing. And he said, I want to live on the beach, which just was a metaphor, meaning I want to have some calories, I want to have some energy. I don't want to starve nonstop. Okay. Islam has been equally as passionate while less vocal, and has said the only thing that I would like to not have to do is to keep beating the scale at 155. Like, Islam has been very clear about that. The one hang-up is now that Islam no longer has to beat the scale and he's become a 170-pounder. He keeps talking about, but he also wants to go to 55, that he plans to beat Jack, Ilia wins, come back, fight Ilia at 155. Which, if this whole thing was the UFC's mastermind, is the one thing that Islam would know he's not going to be allowed to do. Which is another reason that I dismiss this damn story, except that the source is amongst the best this industry has ever seen. But what would happen? It's a very fair question. What would happen? I mean, the way that Islam plays it out, he wins the belt at 70 and Ilia wins the belt at 55, and then they do this champ business. But let's just change one of those pieces. Ilia wins the belt at 155. Islam does not win at 170. Does Islam stay at 170, go through the meat grinder, work his way back? Or does he immediately drop where, in theory, he probably would draw right into a world title fight? But the same question would be asked of Islam. Or I apologize, of Ilia. If he doesn't get the jump, if Ilia does not get the jump on Charles, does he stay at 155? Does he go back through the grinder, work his way up, come out with a new strategy? Try again. Or does he drop back to 45? Because if I listen to the word, and they both had the same struggle at beating that scale. Is the number one reason that fighters retire. It is the sole reason you did not get Khabib to 30-0. The sole reason you did not get Conor versus Khabib Part 2, and the UFC never saw, they didn't realize. Khabib didn't want to weigh 155 pounds again. That's why you didn't get that fight. So I'm only sharing, if you understand the concept that nothing cuts a fighter's career shorter, nothing makes a fighter want out of the sport more than that weigh-in. If you understand that, then you would see where it's very difficult to imagine that a guy that doesn't have to cut weight would choose to. If you're not the champion at 170, Islam's case, if you're not the champion at 170, you got to go back to 55. You're not guaranteed a final fight, but you probably are, and you're definitely only one away. But not a title fight and only one away. What difference is that than if you're at 170 and you're happy and you're eating more food? I'm interested, but you got to understand, these dates, this fact pattern matters. If you guys follow this channel regularly, you see me coming back to the same beat. Why does Chael keep beating this damn drum? Well, the order of how this happened is colossally important. You have two guys that are stars in the same area, that nobody has beaten in the same area, that are champions of the world in the same era. They're side by side. It's Matt Hughes, Anderson Silva all over again. It's Anderson Silva, George St. Pierre all over again. And that was a mistake. We should have got Anderson and St. Pierre together. We should have got Anderson and Jon Jones together. They're barely set. They weigh the same thing. 185 and 205, it's the same thing. 170 and 185, you weigh the same thing. But if you can't get them together, then we are left to argue to this day, and we do amongst ourselves, who was better, who would have won, George St. Pierre, Anderson Silva. That debate still goes on. When we had a chance to find out, that debate still goes on. And if I'm going to be part of this debate in the future, if we never get Ilia and we never get Islam together, and I'm part of the debate, I will tell you right now, where I stand right now, I got a problem. Because I look at that fight and I say Islam. That's what I say. But Ilia's the one that pushed for the fight. Those guys know who's going to win. Two fighters, when they walk to the ring, always know who's going to win. And no, it's not what you think at home. They're both fully confident, and they both believe it's them. No, they both know who's going to win. All the rest of it is an act. And there's a courage involved, and there's some risk-taking involved. I'm willing to walk out there, and I'm willing to try anyway, and this is what dreams are made of. All of that is true. Both fighters know, almost every time, who's going to win. And I think that Ilia, particularly in the future, when we look back at this situation, the fact that Ilia entered the division, gave his belt up, publicly, lobbied and campaigned, and tried to get the fight, I think it's going to create a real problem in the future when you're debating these two to go, yeah, but at the end of all of that, I still think it's Islam. Right? You could probably do that now. You could probably do that today, but reality is a lot clearer today. Reality doesn't have a lot to do with anything in 5 years. You're just looking back. And so the fact pattern here, right? The order of events. Who left first? Who called for the fight first? Who knew the other guy wasn't going to be there? Who knew the other guy was going to be there and decided to go? All of these things matter. And we got a source saying, essentially, these guys knew the same thing at the same time, which is your fight's never going to happen. The same time that Islam knew he was going to go to 170 but didn't say anything. Ilia knew he was going to 155. And that Ilia knew at 155 Islam was going to be gone. And therefore the call-outs of Islam were insincere. They were for show. Because they both had the same information, which is, I'm coming up, you're going up. If that is in fact how this went, it is colossally important for an argument into the future. It is a colossally important detail. And we've got a massive source in MMA that is claiming that's exactly what happened. That both of these guys were given the same info. That you're going up and you're going up here. I find that so hard to believe, but I can't tell you it didn't happen.